right, number 12.
Number 12.
It's going to be one of two, technically. We're recording two today because I am going on a trip this Sunday. So this is recorded on the 18th of April. This will be posted on the,
28th?
28th, I believe. So the Sunday, the 28th. So this one, we're also going to be relatively similar to the one we did for 9. Yeah, that we just kind of found some topics throughout the week and we wanted to talk about them. So that's what we're going to be doing again. And then similar to that one, we're also going to be reading another Daily Stoic. But this one's going to be, this is for the Thursday to 25th. So this would be if we were recording next week on Thursday. This will be the April 25th version of the Daily Stoic. The title for this one is called There's Nothing Wrong with Being Wrong. If anyone can prove and show me to think, if anyone can prove and show to me that I think and act in error, I will gladly change it. For I seek the truth, by which no one has even been harmed. The one who is harmed is the one who abides in deceit and ignorance. Someone once attempted to argue with the philosopher Cicero by quoting something he said or written. The person claimed Cicero was saying one thing now, but had believed something different in the past. His response, I live from one day to the next. If something strikes me as probable, I say it, and that is how, unlike everyone else, I remain a free agent. No one should be ashamed at changing his mind. That's what the mind is for. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, Emerson said, adored by little statesmen and philosophers and divines. That's why we go to such lengths to learn and expose ourselves to wisdom. It would be embarrassing if we didn't end up finding out if we were wrong in the past. Remember, you're a free agent. When someone points out a legitimate flaw in your belief or in your actions, they're not criticizing you. They're presenting a better alternative. Accept it. I actually love that one, and I think it's really interesting because I wanted to make a TikTok video about people that can't accept that they're wrong. Because being in the food service industry, you definitely
see a lot of it.
Encounter a lot of people that will come up to you and say the complete wrong thing, and then they'll, get mad at you for supposedly getting their drink wrong or getting their order wrong or saying that they said something. Like I had this one guy last week or 2 weeks ago. He came in and he wanted to get a gift card, and he said, I want a $3 gift card. And I was like, okay, in my head, I was like, I don't know if that's possible. So I put in 3 and I was like, oh, sorry, sir. You have to do minimum of $5. And he's like, I said 30. And I was like, okay. I thought, that did seem a little bit odd. So that makes a little bit more sense. And then Julian was in the cafe at the time, and I went into the back and he came out. I came back out and that guy left, and he goes, that guy definitely said 3. And I was like, why can people not admit when they're wrong? And it really does irk me because it just doesn't make sense.
It's the embarrassment factor of it. I feel like a lot of those people that can't admit they're wrong are very insecure, and they hold a lot of fragility, and anyone showing them up or proving them wrong really hurts their ego. And I've seen people get really angry because I'm a dick when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I love proving people wrong. It just makes me happy. So I've done that to people and seen people blow up over it, and it really all comes down to just being fragile and having an ego that's easily bruised. Because those people are the people that you also see that you can't change their opinion. A lot of it is stupid people too. You can't change their opinion. They argue just to argue. We've talked about this before. And there's a lot of common ground for those types of people.
That's how sometimes I feel like I should put them in their place. And other times I should feel like I really shouldn't be worrying about it. Because there was another customer that came in and definitely told me something completely wrong. They ordered one thing and they told me that it was something else completely. And then they were like, it was supposed to be this way. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, do I say something or just, not really worry about it? And that kind of has to go along with, I think it was might have been a thread that I posted. I don't remember exactly, but it was just how letting little things bother you really just allows for so much negativity to come in your life. Because I think it might have been a Substack. I don't know. It was a newsletter or something. But there's a few things that would pop up just like that. Like somebody walking up the wrong set of stairs and just acting like they own the place, or the wrong side of the stairs. So like, you know, usually supposed to walk up the right,
yeah.
you know, walk down the right, whatever. And they were walking up the left, or the right side, you know, their left side coming up, but my right side going down. And I was like, do I like get mad about this, or do I just kind of, you know, let it fade away? Because realistically, it's not going to matter. That shit doesn't matter. There's so many things that happen that don't matter. Like someone cuts you off. Maybe if it's dangerous, that might matter. But in reality, it's just like maybe a grandma that doesn't know how to drive, or someone that, you know, doesn't really pay attention. So screaming at them and maybe getting into some road rage really isn't that much, isn't really necessary. But I digress.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I think it's necessary. I get really fucking mad on the highway sometimes. But I mean, that's on the highway when you're driving 80 miles per hour, and that it becomes dangerous then. So I feel like it's only reasonable to road rage if you're on the highway and someone's driving like an idiot.
Mm-hmm. That is I don't know. I'm trying to think of another time where I
had a lady once that I finished making her drink. She looked at it and said, "That's wrong." And I snapped back at her and I'm like, "Did you even taste it yet?" And she was like,
No.
So I said, "All right, taste it and tell me it's wrong." And she took it, took a sip, looked at me angrily, and drove away because it was right.
The audacity of some people is crazy. And that also shows you a whole different side of someone as well. Like, I feel like it's a very common thing to understand if you treat service workers poorly, that shows how you treat everybody.
Yeah.
And if you treat service workers poorly, I wouldn't want to be around you to begin with.
Exactly.
Because, like, service workers already go through so much crap to begin with. And to go out of your way to make people more miserable than they already are working for whatever they're working for is just, it shows what kind of person you really are. And it's very apparent. You can tell that some people just have no idea how to treat others. And you wonder how they get through life with anybody, like relationships. Like, that's the one big thing. If you're dating somebody, like say you're dating someone for, I guess this is probably something you would figure out relatively early on in a relationship, but that would be a major red flag of how they treat people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. You drop them instantly if they're screaming at service workers. And I mean, even on the other side of that spectrum, too, if you treat service workers well, it shows that you're a good person, and they will probably take care of you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was at the Midas on Irving, and I was sitting there waiting for an oil change, and the worker got a phone call, and I could only hear his half of the conversation, obviously, but his half of the conversation was like, "What? No, there is no oil change that'll last you 10 years. And he was just arguing back and forth with this guy because the guy thought that you only had to change the oil like once in the lifetime of a car. And he got off the phone, and I was like, "Hey, man, I don't know what he was talking about, but if you guys got those, can I get one of those 10-year oil changes too? Because they're expensive, man." And he laughed and thought it was funny, and I shot the shit with them for a little bit. And then when my car was finally done, it was supposed to be like a $75 oil change, and he put in like a coupon code for me, and I ended up paying $40 for a full synthetic.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, you go most places, it's $100 for that.
Yeah, I think with a $10 gift or $10 coupon at Jiffy Lube, it's like still 80 something.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
And I paid like $45 for a full synthetic. Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, that just shows you, if you treat people with kindness, it'll come back to you.
It's the the known saying, treat people how you want to be treated.
The golden rule.
Yep.
This is more, well, I don't know. I think I want to start with this. War ist schwierig, Deutsch zu lernen.
I don't know what that means.
It means, how hard has it been learning German?
I think it's been difficult. I definitely pick up on a lot of things that like Neela and her family say. I think the major difference is Duolingo teaches you very like basic stuff. So I could definitely, if I see it on a piece of paper and like read German, I could probably read it. But when somebody speaks to me in like a regular fast pace, I probably have no idea what you're saying. And that's the same thing like when I'm listening to conversations that Neela has with her family. I just look for like certain words, and that's how I kind of understand certain things.
That's how I have that's how I've become with Spanish at work. I mean, I can take fucking orders in Spanish 100%, and I can understand basic like greetings and shit like that, but it's still like I'm not nowhere near fluent. I can just kind of pick up keywords.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you see yourself ever becoming fluent?
Not through Duolingo. I definitely would need to take it a step further and go into like an actual class in person. Or even spend a lot more time in Germany, because when I went to Germany, or when we went to Germany in 2022, I picked up on a lot of German when I was there, just for the fact that I was around German all the time.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time when we went to this smaller town where she had family friends. It was 2 different towns, and both of those towns, they really only spoke German. So I was just sitting there just listening to German conversations like the entire time. That's when I was finding out some words that I can understand, so I can kind of have an idea of what they're talking about. But being involved in the culture of it, and just listening how people order, the sound of people talk to each other, have conversation at like a family, like just having people over, is so much more beneficial than literally doing 200 days of Duolingo, because that's what I have. I have a 200-day streak. Not in a row. I've definitely missed some days, but like,
it's not a streak then.
Well, no, yeah, streak freezes. So like when you miss a day, it saves it. But yeah, like being around it and being in the culture definitely allows you to learn so much more. And I think that's why I also, if I want to take it to a step up as well, not just going into a class, but depending on like how much time I spend like watching shows, going and watching shows in German. Like I watch a good amount of anime.
In
if
German?
I start not in German, but I'm saying like that would definitely help me learn more. Like that's like a normal topic or normal tip for people to learn a language, is to listen to like news or read the newspaper and stuff in German, just to get kind of a feel for how people word things, and you just get more what is the word? I don't know what the word is. Not more involved. What is it? It's on like the tip of my tongue.
Ingrained.
Kind of. Exposed.
Oh,
more.
Yeah,
You just the more you expose yourself to it, the better you're gonna get at it. But you also have to be able to speak it. It's like, I don't know. I don't think I could pass a German 1 course in high school yet, because there's still like conjugation and like tenses and stuff that I don't understand. But
yeah,
overall, like I do say some things to Neela and her mom, and they're like, "Was it a good idea that we taught him how to speak German a little bit?"
Fuck pizza.
For that exactly. Yeah, but like I do say some things. They tell me I talk like Yoda, because I think of it in English rather than thinking of it in German.
So you say it backwards?
Yeah, so I'll either say things backwards, or I'll, like, I honestly couldn't tell you. I think the adjective or something's supposed to be at the end. So I'll speak literally like Yoda, and they'll be like, Yoda speaking right now, or something when I'm saying something in German. So it makes sense, but like, because the grammar and the syntax, I guess, is a little bit different than it would be in English, I just say things in the wrong order.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, and most languages are like that. English is really the only language that isn't like that, so we're the odd ones out. But, because, I mean, I want to become fluent in, like, language is just very interesting to me. I want to become fluent in more than one language. I'm trying to learn Spanish just by ear, asking people that are Spanish speakers how to say this, how to say that, practicing it, memorizing it. Necesitamos hielo en la barra caliente. It means we need ice in the hot bar. But yeah, it's good to know that Duolingo, because I've used Duolingo a bit. I used it for French, but I only had like a 25-day streak, and then I stopped. But it's good to know that it won't really take you where you need to be if you want to be fluent, because like Maddie wants to go to like Paris, and that's why we were learning French. So
it'll teach you some stuff. There'll definitely be a unit at some point that's like how to order in a cafe or whatever. But it's also, it really depends on, because mostly everybody in France speaks English. So like,
so you don't need to know.
So you don't technically need it. Like where you go to the smaller towns in Germany,
you need
German, because there will be some people that will speak English. Like in one of the smaller towns they told me to go in and get like a bag of ice or something. I don't exactly remember, or pay for gas. And I was so afraid, because I assumed that the person I was going to talk to was going to only speak German, but they ended up speaking English. So it was like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I took French in high school. I don't remember any of it. I remember how to say like, I'm
ne
Playing basketball, 9. I think no, I don't know if I can. Oh, I might be able to count to 10, maybe.
1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6, Zepp. I'm thinking of German because Sechs is 6, Siebt is 7, Acht is 8, Neun is 9, and Zehn is 10 for German, not French. But I definitely know my numbers in German a lot better.
I can count to 3 in French. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's pretty good. What? So you said you wanted to learn. Oh, you said you want to learn French for the fact that
French and Spanish are probably my top 2 right now.
Well, I mean, even the Spanish thing, you can. That's kind of like your evidence that being around it allows you to learn more, because I do think Spanish is a very useful language being in America because of how many people speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And I do find it very interesting that some people do come in and they don't speak any English at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So being in America definitely is a very useful language to learn.
I mean, even at work, like with Spanish, there's customers that have come in that don't speak a lick of English, and then I start taking their order in Spanish, and they're like, "Holy fuck, this white boy's taking my order!" And they always get really excited, and it's fun. Like, it's very enjoyable to see that reaction when they're like, "You're fucking fluent." Like the videos you see on YouTube of there's like a really really white guy that goes to like Chinese restaurants and starts ordering in Mandarin, and they're like,
"Yep." That's I think if there was another language I would learn, it would definitely be Japanese. That's hard as shit, though.
It's funny to think about a native English speaker watching a Japanese TV show in a German dub.
Dude, there's of the Jujutsu Kaisen show, there's some parts in German, and it sounds so hard. Like, it goes hard. So I definitely would watch Jujutsu Kaisen in German, because, like, it sounds so sick. Because you listen to, like, domain... Like, that's, like, the main thing is domain expansion. So it's, like, domain expansion in English, whatever. Domain expansion in Japanese is Yoichi Tenkai.
Yeah.
And then domain expansion in German is Atmosphären Entfaltung. It's
that sounds
nuts.
Cool as fuck.
It's nuts. So, I don't know. I think languages is super cool as well. But also, I think I heard something like how learning a language actually really helps you build your cognitive ability because of how difficult it is to learn multiple. And honestly, I find it so fascinating because, like, somebody that's fluent in multiple languages, I always want to ask them, what language do you think in? You know, like, Neela's fluent in German. She was born, like, that's her first language. She also fluent in English, but, like, does she think
in German?
I don't remember exactly what she said, but yeah, like, do they think, whoever it is, think in their native language or think in the language that they're also fluent in? I do think it's also environmental. So, like, if you're in the US and you're probably thinking
in English,
depending on who you're around. Like, if you're around a bunch of people that are speaking German, then obviously you're probably going to be thinking in German because you're hearing German, and, you know, there's different contexts to certain things and stuff.
That's a rabbit hole I kind of want to go down now. Like, because one of the most intriguing things that I will never experience that I want to experience so bad is hearing English when I don't understand it. Like, I want to not understand English and hear what it sounds like.
You want to know how you could do that?
How?
Just talk to Min in the morning. Dude, I had a conversation with him this morning. I can't even call it a conversation. I had no idea what the fuck he was saying. Like, I feel so bad because I don't want to be like, what are you saying? Sorry, like, I don't understand you. Like, I don't want to be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't understand you at all. He was, like, showing me something about a dollar bill and talking about Washington, but, like, all I picked out was Washington. And Scott in the morning also talks to Min. So I was like, you know, when he comes in, I'm going to ask him if he understands anything that he says. And I was like, Scott, do you understand anything that he says? He's like, probably about 3%. I just kind of pick out words and then act like I know what he's talking about. And I was like, dude, that's my fear, is if he comes in and he's talking about, like, somebody dying. And I'm like, haha, that's awesome. That's so funny, you know? And that scares me because he's a nice guy, but I think he's Vietnamese. And I would love to learn Vietnamese for the fact that I could have a conversation with Min one day.
It's funny that you say that because that happened to me once. There was a girl at the window one time. She got up to the window and I was like, hi, how are you today? Didn't hear her response. And I was like, oh, that's good. She's like, did you say that was good? And I was like, wait, what'd you say? And she said, I said I'm having a bad day. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I copped her drink because of it, but I felt so bad.
Dude, that's hilarious.
And that's how a lot of my conversations go, because I just suck at hearing. Like, I need to go get my ears professionally cleaned.
Well, at the window, it is hard with everything going on, and sometimes you don't even expect them to say anything at all.
Especially with like the heater on too. It's hard to hear out the window. Half the time, if I don't hear them, my second question, I put my head out the window.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way, because I hate having to say sorry. What did you say? Like multiple times.
That makes me want to fucking blow my brains out.
But it's more of the fact that people seem to get angry when you can't hear them, and sometimes people just talk really quiet. So it's like, how are you gonna get upset at me because you're speaking at too low of a volume for me to actually understand you? And I'm just trying to understand you clearly. Like, I want to know what you want. Like, especially if you're ordering with me, you're telling me what you want, and then you're gonna get mad at me for getting it wrong because you wouldn't speak up.
See, I've gotten good at that to the point. This really came through when I had the broken wrist and I was in drive-through all day, every day. I got to the point where I can hear certain syllables. Like, if I pick out 3 syllables in a 7-word sentence, I can usually figure out what the sentence is, because it gives me so much anxiety to ask them to repeat themselves.
That's funny. It also kind of I brought this topic up to Luke as well, with like kind of it's just kind of being in drive. That's kind of like the idea, but it was the idea of being rejected again.
Yeah.
But it was like, dude, he was asking me about it, like, how do I go be rejected more? And like, dude, you realize you have like the best possible situation right now when you're at work to be rejected? Upselling is literally the perfect thing, because you're suggesting something to them, and you have however many customers. I mean, depending, it's probably 200 customers in the morning that if you're on drive-thru, you can ask them if they want something.
Would you like to try a cake pop?
Yeah, 200 times. Like, that's so much. You're involving yourself in so much rejection. He was like, how do I, like, he's like, what does that transfer over to? I'm like, I don't know, dude, like asking a girl out or something. He's like, so how do I do that? I'm like, dude, you got to figure that out on your own. He's like, do I ask them if they like anime? I was like, dude, you trial and error. If you want to, you can, but they're probably going to
laugh at you
maybe. Not that there's anything wrong with anime, because I fucking love it, but you have to read the room too.
Yeah.
But also that, that topic also goes into using your resources, because like realistically, you're using your time that you're being paid at work to work on a skill that you could utilize in multiple different places.
Yeah. And just growing your mental strength. I mean, that's one of the few things that I've done it, but I get anxious when I start adding more onto people's totals.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm like, hey, you should try this with this syrup, that gives me anxiety just seeing the 80 cents go on there. Or, hey, you want to try it with cold foam? I like it like this. And then the price goes up $2. And I hope that they're not like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is $2 more. So I don't do it much. But I mean, it is honestly, I never really thought about it like that. It is a great place to do that.
I mean, technically it's sales. It is sales in a way.
Yeah.
Not that you're, making commission or whatever.
See, if I was making commission, I wouldn't care.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I was actually looking at like this solar job 2 nights ago. Cause I was on
you have to go sell solar panels or something?
Yeah, and you go door to door and knock, and you have to try to sell solar panels, and you can either have a $30 an hour pay rate, or you can work uncapped commission and make like up to $8,000 a month, which is, like the idea of door knocking, it sounds like, it makes me a little anxious, but at the same time, I remember fucking in high school going door to door on the day we had to sell the cards. And if I could do that, I could go get paid to do it.
Yeah. The thing is, I think the big difference there is that you're a kid and people are like, oh, it's just a kid trying to sell something.
Yeah.
Now it's like, fuck this guy. He's an asshole trying to sell something to me. That relates to something I was reading. I think it was in the Happiness Advantage book. It was a concept about, let's say you have a monotonous meeting that you have to go to every certain week or whatever day of the week, and it's for 2 hours. And you know that you're probably not going to learn much during that meeting. Trying to find any opportunity to build yourself in any way throughout that 2 hour meeting. Like, you may not be learning anything from the content that you're being told about, but maybe you're learning how to or how not to present something like that the presenter is doing. Or maybe you're just trying to go in and learn like 3 different things based on like that you didn't think you were going to learn that day. So trying to go into any type of situation, whether it's work or like a, you know, like I said, a monotonous meeting, trying to find some sort of way to make yourself a little bit better will also help have a better mindset and going into anything. Cause like you're basically going to learn no matter what you're doing. And I think that's super important because like the thing about upselling is something that you can learn at work. You might go into work, you know, a different day and be like, okay, I'm actually going to work on this and it's going to help me in my my career in the future. And that's like kind of the one thing why I regret not being involved in kind of like the rejection therapy or like knowing about the rejection therapy yet when I was at Apple, because yes, there's no commission at Apple as a specialist, but you have to hit a certain percentage of Apple Care.
Yeah.
And I was so scared to continue to push Apple Care onto people because it's like you said, you don't want to get rejected. You don't want people to say no to you, or you're technically fine with just being like, hey, you want Apple Care? No. Okay, it's fine. Like you just asked like the very basic question and that's it.
Yeah.
But pushing on it as like testing your ability to be rejected. And I do wish I would have had a different mindset at
Are
that time.
you sure is the important part there and trying to convince them. That's where
the convincing
really comes out.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I think sales was a big learning curve for sure for the 4 months that I was there. And I definitely would want to be, I guess I wouldn't say I would want to be. I don't think I would go door to door selling solar panels either. It definitely scares me.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of it, you know, being able to be rejected and be able to go and talk to people and do whatever and ask people will allow you to become a better business owner faster than you would be if you weren't able to do that in general.
Yeah. It also, this is semi-related, not 100% related, but I wanted to bring it up again because I feel like we talked about it a bit, but not too much. Parkinson's law. You know what that is, right?
I've definitely heard of it. I don't recall what exactly it is, though.
It's, well, the guy that I was writing about it says his life motto is there's always time. And basically Parkinson's law is give yourself an hour to get a task done, and it'll take an hour. Give yourself a month to do a task, and it's going to take a month to do that task. Mm-hmm. And I've looked at that and look at how much I procrastinate, and I think I really want to start setting that into motion more because I fully well know that is 100% true, and if I only give myself a day to do something, I'll do it. Whereas like for example, I had $3,500 worth of medical bills that with my dad's insurance, we get these like little questionnaire things that you have to write down, like your name, your injury, or whatever was wrong with you, how it happened, where it happened, was someone else liable, and you have to answer all those and then send it back in for them to approve the claim. And I never saw any of those. I didn't know I had to do that until this collections letter came in, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Why, like, what's happening? And my dad's like, oh, these things probably never got filled out. And I'm like, well, I had no clue I had to fill those out. I never saw them. And he's like, I didn't see them either. I don't know what happened. So I had to call his company or his union's like medical benefits hall and say, hey, what should I do about this? And the lady was like, well, you only have 90 days or 1 year from the claim to add it to the insurance, but you can try to figure it out. And I got the collections letter on like February 15th. I had until March 23rd to like contest it. And I made that call on like March 19th to the union hall because I knew I had a month to do it. Whereas if that collections letter came in and said, hey, it's February 19th, you have until February 24th to get this done, I would have done it in those 3 days.
Mm-hmm. A concept that actually relates to that is something that I heard from Alex Hormozy, and it was the idea of making decisions quicker. So like, let's just say one person, you compare 2 different people. One person makes one decision every week, one decision per week. So that means they're making 4 decisions per month.
Yeah.
But let's say the other person makes one of those decisions each day. So in 4 days, he made more decisions than that person did the entire month.
Yeah.
So if you just learn about making quick decisions faster, you're technically or theoretically going to get more done than anyone that just does one task per week or whatever it is. So I definitely think that's something that I want to implement more as well, because there's definitely some times where I definitely know when I have to, for example, like I have some school stuff that's due every Friday, and it's like, oh, okay, Friday's coming. It's Monday. I'll just do it tomorrow. Tuesday comes. Oh, it's due Friday. I'll just do tomorrow. It really depends on also what it is as well. If it's super complex, I will start it multiple days in advance because I know it's going to take multiple days.
Yeah.
But for this class specifically, it's like I do a discussion post and I have to take a quiz, and like the quiz is like
12
whatever,
questions.
4 questions, and that's it. So, and it's open book. So it's like I can take that whenever, I can make a discussion post whenever. So obviously it depends on what type of that decision is, if it's a complex decision or if it's a simple task. But if you just learn to make more decisions quicker, you'll get more done, not just in, a day or a week or whatever. You're going to be getting more done than people do in general in an entire week than somebody would in an entire month.
See, and I understand that concept, but I just like to be, I don't know, almost like self-destructive. Like I think the best way to put it is I'm like scared of doing things that benefit me. And I don't know why, but I've been that way for a long time, where like I don't even know where the problem stems from either. Like I don't even think I applied to a single college because I was like, what if I don't make it to college? Like what if I like die before I make it to college? And it like I don't know, it's
like masochism.
Yeah, exactly. Like my head's so just fucked up in certain ways that like it's shit like that happens.
Do you think that's because you might be afraid to fail?
Very, very possibly. I think, I'm definitely afraid to fail. And I think that's why I haven't used my full potential coming out of high school up until now, because I'm scared of throwing everything at something and failing. So it's almost like I'm trying to find the perfect path, and that the perfectionism comes in there too, where I'm trying to find the perfect path for myself and only follow that one path and not have to try new things and do anything else because I'm scared to fail.
So where do you think that fear comes from? Like obviously everybody has fear, but where do you think your fear personally comes from?
High standards growing up, and just like, I don't know, almost like when I was growing up, I was always told that I knew I was smart because of certain shit I would do, and like how my teachers would talk to me and let me do what I want. So I knew I was smart, and I was almost scared that because I was so smart, I had to be like this super genius that did absolutely amazing things. So I held myself to really, really, really high standards, but I never knew what path to take to hit those high standards. And it kind of, as I got older, burned me out more and more because I still hadn't found a path. And I just wanted to find the perfect path that was going to make me lots of money, but I didn't know how to do it. And it just created a very self-destructive cycle of, I could do this, but I'm not going to be successful enough if I do that. Or I could do this, I'm not going to be successful enough. And I never put full effort into anything because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
So how do you think your life would be affected if you continue to not act on things because you're afraid to fail?
I think I'll stay in a cycle of comfortable, almost uncomfortable complacency. Just because you need to try things and fail to learn and really move forward, and I'm starting to accept that more. And I know that if I don't accept that more and start to learn to fail at things, I'm never going to make it anywhere. I mean, I applied for a fucking job I've applied for like 3 or 4 jobs ever, and I applied for one a couple days ago because I don't want to fucking work it where anymore.
Mm-hmm. The quote, it's by Chris Voss. I don't know if he said this exactly, but pressure makes diamonds, but you gotta want to be a diamond.
Exactly. Yeah, and I do want to be a diamond. I thought you were gonna say day one or one day. But I've been saying that a lot to people.
Dude, every time I see day one or something, I'll be like, or no, it would be someone say one day, I'll be like, day one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Every time. But this also, I was reading it was a podcast, and it was a negotiation podcast, and this guy was like a FBI negotiator, and one of the concepts they were talking about, kind of like what we're like talking about now, is, we're scared to fail in certain aspects, but could you imagine yourself being in the same place 5 years down the road?
Exactly.
And
no.
feeling the same way and being like, wow, I could have made a decision 5 years ago and could have been different. My life could have been completely different 5 years later if I would have got past that failure. But because you were so scared to do whatever it is, that's what is the possibility now. You could have that chance in 5 to 10 years that you're in the same place and, you're doing the same thing, unhappy. So I think it's also a good mindset to take. Like, yeah, that's scary. Like, I think I'm turning 25 this year, and I couldn't imagine, like, in 5 years I'm doing the same thing. And I think that's why it also has accelerated my passion to continue to learn, because I feel like for the past, starting since last year, the past 3 years before that, I never seeked out any additional knowledge that could benefit me in any single way. It was just like, oh, I got to do school. I'm just going to learn anything about, like, just exactly what they're teaching me. I'm not going to really look into it. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But now it's like I purchase books on the weekly, trying to read as much books as possible. Like I went to Target earlier today and bought another book about the science of longevity. And like, these are books that I would be scared to read before because I just didn't think I was capable of comprehending them. But now, I don't know. I think that fear of being where I am, being in the same place in a longer period, like, and further into the future, is very scary. I think they actually did someone did a mouse trial or experiment where basically they tied a mouse to like a spring, and they tested how much force that mouse would pull on. So how they did it was they would put a piece of cheese in and see how much that mouse pulls on the spring to get towards it, and they would measure that. But then what they would do is they would put a piece of cheese there, but they would also put the scent of a cat behind it, and it pulled twice as hard because it was scared. It was fearful of the cat more than it wanted to desire the cheese. Yeah. So it's kind of like the same concept of life, is sometimes you need something that you fear more than you need something that you want to get in order to get to where you want to be, because you're more willing to act on something that you're scared of rather than something that you want to get.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, even just that fear has really lit a fire under my ass, because it's almost suffocating and it makes me more fucking anxious. And with that fear, I've started finally looking at jobs more and more, and it's creating even more fear, because you look at all the jobs, and like, even if you go on Indeed and look at entry-level jobs, 90% of them still want at least a bachelor's degree. So you really have to look at like apprenticeships, and then with apprenticeships, you're going to be getting paid like $17 an hour, and it's really lit a fire under my ass to even like look at getting a degree in something just to fucking have one.
Yeah, just for the fact that you unfortunately won't be able to get one. And that is, I definitely agree with you as well. Like, it has kind of, going back to the not making decisions on things, I've needed a resume for like the last 3 months, and I told myself I was going to apply for internships in the summer, but I haven't created my resume and I haven't applied for a single internship. So it's like, yes, I'm getting, working towards my school and stuff, but I've been telling myself I want to get an internship, but I haven't made the decision to finally get my resume done and actually apply. And I think that also stems from the fear of like, okay, you look at all these jobs, like you said, and they all have these certain requirements. And yes, I may meet some of those requirements, but maybe they won't choose me. So it's like that fear of like, yes, I might be qualified, but maybe they won't choose me. Maybe I'm not interesting enough, or I don't have enough interpersonal skills, or I don't fit with a team or whatever. Just like thinking about all these different possibilities that somehow I'll fail, even if I try. And, that is scary. And I am, kind of on the same level as you. I'm trying to get out of that mindset.
Yeah. this is switching topics definitely, but Another couple things that I've just seen all over that I wanted to talk about because they were both kind of crazy to me. The first one was the NBA/WNBA pay disparity, which I'm sure you've seen all over social media too, with Caitlin Clark being one of the best women to ever play basketball now. She in college at least.
Yeah.
Her rookie contract is worth $76,535 for the first year and $338,056 over the course of 4 years before taxes. And in 2022 and 2023, that season, the NBA rookie minimum salary, what do you think it was?
$500K.
$953,000. So the average NBA rookie is making 14 times what the number one overall draft pick in WNBA is making. And yes, I understand that viewership is significantly different between those two leagues, but that is still just so crazy to me. Like, obviously, Caitlin Clark's going to she has like $3 million in deals with I think she has a deal with Gatorade, Nike.
Yeah, Christian said that she has a deal with Nike that's 8 figures. So, like...
8? Oh, wow.
He said it was 8 figures, yeah. So, like, her contract was, like you said, $330K, but she has a contract with Nike that's 8 figures, which is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Staying on the topic of, like, sports as well, do you know who Destroy is? Not, like, this is not women's sports, but this is just, like, sports in general. He's a football player. His name's a football player / YouTuber. His name's Destroy.
I think I've heard of him, yeah.
So he's like a kicker, but he used to make YouTube videos when he was in college. I think he went to USC, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But they told him at wherever college that he went, he was making these YouTube videos. They told him, you need to delete your videos and your channel or we're kicking you off the football team.
I heard about this, yeah.
Yep. And they kicked him off the football team. He's like, I'm not going to stop making my videos because, people are watching them and they're interesting. So they kicked him off. And then however many years ago, I don't know exactly, like last year or 2 years, you can make money off of freaking college football or college sports.
Yeah, the NIL
so it's like
deals.
They literally got rid of his opportunity to become a professional. Now he does play for the PFL, I think. He's a kicker for some team in I think that's a fighting league. XFL maybe?
Yeah,
something
think it's
like that.
XFL.
For like a secondary professional football league. Now he probably doesn't make nearly as much as he would if he was actually in the NFL. But for the fact that they changed the rules after they told him literally you're gonna get I don't know if it was expelled or just kicked off the team for making videos, and I think that's fucking crazy.
Reggie Bush lost his Heisman for the same reason.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got money in college from a sponsor.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's just it is absolutely nuts. Like they should allow him to have. I mean, I don't know how well he performs. I'm not sure if he's a kicker, I think. So I'm not sure how well enough he performs to be in the NFL, but I do think people that are given, repercussions for, making YouTube videos or getting signing deals and stuff in college prior to whenever the deals actually came out should have some sort of compensation for it, or they should have an opportunity to maybe get put on a team, because you're literally ruining people's lives by taking away their opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be something we need to ask Sam about. I think that would be something we probably should ask Sam about.
Yeah, honestly, that would be a good topic for him. He'll be a big sports podcast.
Yeah, that would.
Sneak peek, guys. Sam, you could ask him the roster of the 1916 Chicago White Sox, and he'd be able to name like at least half of them. I guess.
Probably their batting average.
Yeah. How many home runs did they hit that season too? And that's not even exaggerating. That one's gonna be a fun one. But on the topic of sports too, have you seen he denied them, but there's still rumors floating around that something could happen with Rory McIlroy getting offered $850 million by the LIV, which is this league run by Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that, and then I also saw that they're hosting a big esports cup with like 13 games, and the total prize pool is over $60 million between the games. No. This is different. It's just like UAE esports cup or something. I don't know the official name, but there's like, you're seeing more and more instances of like professional athletes in sports that are, I mean, like in America, but around the world too, that are bigger in other areas, that are coming to these UAE countries just because the money's there and they're making significantly more money. Do you think we'll see a switch of like somewhere else being bigger than the US in sports because they have more money?
I don't think so. I think the people that will go over to wherever, I don't think they would move there, but I think especially with the idea of like moving over to like the live tour and stuff, most of those players, like, yes, some of them are really good, but I think a lot of the people that take the money and leave realize that they're not having any opportunity to perform well enough in their current state. So they in their mind know that they're not good enough to perform against all the people that are in all these major leagues and stuff, that they need to go to some other league to try and make their name there, for the fact that,
But what's crazy to me is these people are, in that aspect, B tier athletes then, if they're not performing well enough to make a name in the biggest league in whatever sport they're in. So they're B league athletes going and signing deals bigger than they would have had in that league, than the top players in those leagues have. And that's just, it's crazy to think about, because 20 years down the line, I feel like you could see other countries buying our best athletes in American sports into other countries, into other leagues, because they're going to go where the money's going.
I think that really tests people's values, because yes, money is obviously a huge aspect to anybody's life. But for example, you go back to the Rory McIlroy thing. He's actually one of the people with Tiger Woods that votes against people going to live.
Yeah, I read an article and he got the offer, it said, but he vehemently denied it and said he's staying on the PGA Pro Tour.
Because realistically, a lot of the people that stay on the PGA Tour instead of going to live are like, the PGA has built my career. I would be disrespecting them to go to a different tour for the fact they're going to pay me so much more.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it is a lot of money, but that it does come down to values. And I would say, these people taking the more money instead of staying in the league that either has built them or gave them the opportunity to even get recognized by those secondary leagues, it really shows what type of person they are. Because I really don't think if they come up with some secondary league in Saudi Arabia, I don't think any of the NBA players, not any, of course, there's going to be some, but you probably won't see any of the top players go over and do that.
Yeah.
Because again, the reason that I said is they obviously see that they're not performing well enough to be in the NBA. So they're like, I'm going to go make money somewhere else doing less work. So I think that's really when it comes down to that. It's unrelated to sports, but kind of just related to money in general. I was reading a book called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel or Hassel. And it was the idea that people don't recognize when they have enough of something. So the whole idea of this chapter was to look at two people that couldn't have enough, and then two people that realized that I think it was just two people that couldn't realize that they had enough. So one of the people, I don't remember his name exactly, but he was a very well off, and he was a stockbroker, and he was talking to some company that was about to go public, and even though he had all these millions of dollars, he told his stockbroker, whoever it was, to purchase a certain amount of shares of this company that he just was on the phone with, telling that he was going to go public. So he already had all this bunch of money, and then he bought 175,000 shares of this company, and then he went to jail because of insider trading. And that was for the simple fact that he couldn't have enough. There was never enough money for him.
Yeah.
So that's when, related to, people going to different leagues simply for the money, that's when enough isn't enough. And you probably see some problems down the line of like, okay, they may have signed this much deal at this certain time, but look at that person in 20 years and see if they still have that much money.
Yeah. Because
they can't realize when enough is really enough. Interesting topic, though. I definitely think it's very viable, or very possible. Even this Saudi Arabia is investing into like MMA more now.
Yeah.
And fighters are going to sign with them. And I feel like that makes a little bit more sense. I don't know why. Obviously, I'm not very knowledgeable in MMA. I've watched it like sometimes, but I know some fighters don't really get paid that well. So if you're not getting paid well to begin with and they're going to offer you something, then obviously it's probably a better idea to just go take the more money if you're just going to have the equivalent amount of, experience to fighting and ability to make more money or whatever it is. So there is certain situations that I do think it is possible or it is viable. Then I don't know, but it does make sense.
Yeah. It's just, it really did make me think about whether or not that could happen.
Definitely possible. I just don't know if they're going to be able to fill those leagues. Like, they're not going to be able to fill the league or any of the sports with top players. There just won't be enough people leaving the NBA or the NFL to go to some Saudi Arabian league.
Yeah.
Just for the money.
Another topic about leaving. I've seen these a few times, but I saw one this week, and it just, as much as I don't necessarily think I would do it, it really does pique my interest. Have you seen the towns that like offer incentives for people that aren't residents to come live in the country?
I've not.
Or the town. So I wrote 2 down, but there's a lot of different towns with obviously different incentives to come live there. One of them is Alban, Switzerland. It says, Alban, a charming town in Switzerland, invites people to move there and even pays for it to increase its population. Expats under 45 years of age are offered 20,000 Swiss francs, or around USD 21,000 for moving, and 10,000 Swiss francs for moving their children. And to qualify for the program, residents have to agree to live there for 10 years. A new Swiss home must cost at least 200,000 francs, and you have to be a resident of Switzerland or be married to a Swiss resident. But so I think you have to like gain Swiss residency to live there, and then they'll give you 10% of your house's value if you build a $200,000 house to live there. Or there's Candela, Italy, which is a beautiful town in southern Italy, notable for its Baroque architecture and arched passageways. Its city council pays new residents $870 to move there, I think a month. Families with children are eligible for up to $21.97 a month, as well as tax breaks on waste disposal and nursery care. To qualify, newcomers are required to live in town, rent a house, and earn at least $8,240 per year. That one's a lot more viable than the Swiss one, but there's a lot of, I've seen over the course of the last 3 or 4 months, probably 5 or 6 little towns like that have incentives for newcomers to come live there.
But why are they having incentives for people to come there? Just because they have
low population and they want to reinvigorate the area. Would you ever move to a place like that? A little Swiss Alps town, or little Italian town, a little German town?
Probably not.
Even if they were paying you to live there?
Probably not for a long time. I think maybe if I'm retired and don't need to do anything in my life, maybe I'll go live in the Swiss Alps.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I would be very bored. You do have to have certain circumstances, I think, to have the idea of like, okay, I think
I'm gonna uproot and leave.
Yeah, you also obviously need some sort of amount of income already. Like, you have to have some sort of good enough job to be able to like, okay, I'm gonna go build a $200,000 house in this small ass town for the reason that they're gonna give me 10% back. Like, the deal has to be relatively nice. Like, obviously they're not gonna offer people like, here, have 200K, just come live here or whatever.
Because everyone would flock.
Yeah, and then there's going to be some sort of, process of how you limit people from going there or not. And then, I don't know, it is an interesting topic for sure. And me personally, not anytime soon.
Yeah.
But
it's as much as I don't think I'd do it either, at the same time, it is still very, very intriguing to me. And I do find myself every time I see these thinking like, what if? Like, could I make it work? Would I want to come home in 6 months, or could I go live in a different country?
Well, it is also depending on what your thought process when it comes to, happiness, right? Someone would probably love for you to be like, hey, you want to buy a $200,000, like, you just go build a $200,000 house. We'll give you this. You're going to live in a small town of 500 people, and you're going to, be a farmer. And some people would love that. And they would say yes right away. They don't need anything. They just need a simple life to be able to live with their family, and do whatever you would do in a small town like that. But on top of that, if you're like, okay, yeah, you can build this $200,000 house here, but you have to figure out how to keep it up. Like you still have to pay all your expenses that you would normally have to pay, but you have to go find a job, because you probably would lose your job wherever you are coming from, right? So I feel like there is a lot of boxes you would have to check to actually be like, okay, this decision is a quality decision. I think it's actually going to work out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would be interested to see the data of like who actually says yes to that and what their age range is, because I would assume it's going to be a lot of older folk rather than younger people.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, a lot of them have stipulations like you must be under 45.
Really?
Yeah, like that. Which one was it? Oh yeah. So the Albanin, Switzerland one, expats under 45 years of age are offered 20,000 francs. So there's age limits to them too, even.
I don't know. I feel like there would have to be some other reason other than simply that they have like a low population.
They're trying to bring money to the economy because not many people are moving to those places, and there's definitely ins and outs of it. But I feel like if you could find the right one with good opportunity, it wouldn't be too like, yes, it sounds kind of crazy, but I don't think it would be too far-fetched of an idea. If you found one that's like, hey, we're going to give you $800 a month. You have to work remote for wherever your job is. You have to come in with a job, but like that would obviously be a very niche one. But if you could find something like that, like imagine living in a town where cost of living is half the price of what you're living in America. They help you build a house. They're giving you $800 a month, and they're just like, yeah, you just have to be here. You have to spend money in our economy, and that's it. And they're pretty much giving you the $800 you're going to spend in the economy.
Yeah, which honestly, that doesn't even make sense. How would they be making any economy if they're just giving the money to you? And think about everybody in that town is getting paid that much money. Not
only the new people.
But still, like obviously, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of like the idea of how much debt like the U.S. is in. Like they can just fucking create the money, and it's the same thing with them. You go move there. Here's $800. We need to up our economy. Put that $800 that we give you back into the economy, and our economy is going to go up. How the fuck does that make any sense?
Because theoretically, you're going to be spending more than that $800 in the economy.
Yeah.
Like probably half of your paycheck at least every 2 weeks is going to go into their economy one way or another.
Yeah, unless it's like $800 tax.
Because you're also paying, yeah, exactly. You're also paying income tax in that country, I think. I don't know how that would work. If you're working remote and you're working for like a U.S. company, say, I don't know if you'd pay U.S. income tax or you'd pay the Swiss income tax if you were living in Switzerland.
This actually is, this leads into a topic that I could, bring into this. What would be your opinion on universal basic income? You know what that is?
That's like everyone's entitled to this much money.
Everyone would get $15,000 a year.
Everyone in the world?
Everybody I think it's a United States thing.
See, that sounds great in theory, yes. We can all sit here and lie to ourselves and say that would solve our homelessness problem, that would solve this problem, that problem. But all that would do is create the new baseline of $15,000 is zero. That's all it's going to do.
It's just going to start a trend of people asking for more.
Yeah, it would. All that would do is the poverty line would go up $15,000. It's at what, 34,000 now, or actually I think it's lower than. I think it's like 17 or 18. But the poverty line is there. And if you give every person in this nation registered with a Social Security number $15,000, that poverty line is going to go from 17,000 or wherever it's at right now up to 32,000. Oh, that's all it would do.
Yeah, and there's also the issues of like
inflation.
That, and then like the people that don't need the $15,000. Like you're going to have to decide, okay, based on these certain standards, like the tippity top people don't give a shit about $15,000. That's like a $100 bill to them.
Yeah.
So
who do we give it to?
Who do we give it to is going to be, an issue as well. And I don't know. it's kind of also like the idea of like, obviously unemployment is good for sure. And like getting paid to be unemployed is a good thing. So you can at least survive. But for example, in COVID, when I don't know how many people were getting unemployment, but it puts you into a complacent mindset where, okay, I'm making this much money per year. I can probably live off of this for the entire year, depending on what my situation is. I'm just not going to do anything. I don't need to make any more money. I don't need to put money into the economy. I don't have to buy anything else. Like,
yeah.
So
and
there's so many.
It makes people lazy.
Yeah, it makes people lazy. It makes them complacent with their ability now. Like $15,000, who knows? Like, even that'll rise the poverty line. The people that don't know how to take care of their money
are still gonna have zero.
At the poverty line anyways, are just gonna fucking blow it somehow.
But how would my other question would be, how would that work? Like, on January 1st, do they give you a check for $15,000, or do they say you have a $15,000 salary? We're gonna send you
I don't know,
maybe $200 or $300 a month or a week for 52 weeks a year.
I have a feeling that it would just be all at once, but I'm not honestly sure. I haven't really. Let's see. Oh, it says the concept of a government program in which every adult citizen receives a set amount of money regularly.
So it would be weekly or bi-weekly or monthly.
Yeah. Oh, there is some. Yeah, I think there is a place somewhere that actually does this.
Where?
I don't know, because it says in November 2023, California launched its first state-funded guaranteed income pilot programs focused on your former foster youth. The pilots will give 150 Ventura County residents $1,000 and 150 San Francisco residents $1,200 monthly. That's actually interesting. So it would be like a monthly basis. But I don't know, because like if you think about it, people that are working minimum wage, but it also says adults, so it's not every single person in the country.
It would be kids, or it would be working age people.
Yeah, so that's actually interesting, because I thought it would be everybody, because I was going to say that would actually affect how people make, or how people go to college, or how kids go to college, unless it's like, okay, you have 2 kids, you're going to receive that $15,000. The parent will receive that $15,000 per year, so they can use it to put away for children. But then again, you also have the parents that will be like, oh, cool, I'm getting $45K a year for my 3 kids. I'm just gonna fucking spend it, and then those kids end up getting messed up anyways because poor financially, knowledgeable parents. And
the best way to do that would be the government creates a fund for each person, and they can only access that fund. They're the only person that can access that fund once they turn 18.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that probably would never happen. Or it would be like dependents. When you claim dependents on your taxes, you'd claim dependents and you'd get a certain extra amount per kid.
Mm-hmm.
So say it's $15,000 per year per person, but if you have 3 kids, you get an extra $2,500 a kid until they're 18.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully they would do that same thing with like putting it away in a savings account or something. But
a Roth IRA.
I guess those are we're talking about the pros, but we can't really understand what else the cons would be, because it's not really a concept that we can comprehend exactly yet, because I don't know.
It's just a think piece, but it is good to, like, it does bring a lot of thought.
What do you think, on top of what you make now, what do you think $15,000 would do for you? Do you think it would be like, do you think your life, obviously it's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go buy a Lambo.
That's
but like
1.5 times my salary.
Yeah. So like
that would be, I'd have a lot more money to play with and invest and try to do my own thing with. And that would make life significantly easier. That's why I'm looking for a new job, because like if I get into the job that I just applied for, my starting salary will be almost double what I make now. I'm at $21 an hour right now, I think, and doing that I'd be at like 36 or 37. So I want to make that jump, because I will have so much more. I'm not going to say expendable income, but I would have so much more expendable income to get my own place, pay my car off quicker so I don't have a car payment, start putting I want to put like $1,000 a month into the stock market, and I want to start trading options again, but I want to have a $10,000 or $15,000 safety net before I start trading options again, and also a lot more knowledge. I want to start trading Forex, but I want to again have a safety net.
Yeah.
But with Forex, I might learn a little more and then do the FTMO challenge. Do you know what that is? So you have, I think the company's name is FTMO, but it's basically like a trading brokerage. And they have this challenge where they give you a funded account with like, I want to say it's like 3 stages, but I'm not 100% sure because I haven't looked too deep into it. But they give you an account with like $10,000, and in 30 days you have to make a certain percentage. Like you have to make like 5,000 to 10,000 profit on top of that 10. And then if you do that, it's either they give you a funded account with like $100,000 in it, and any profit you make off that 100,000 is yours to keep. You just can't withdraw the 100,000. But I'm not 100% sure of the whole process, but that's the basis of it. Basically, if you do well in their challenge, they'll give you a funded account, and anything that you make on top of what they funded it with is yours. So imagine having 100,000 in capital to work with, and if you're making 3% a day, you're making $3,000 a day on that.
Mm-hmm.
But in Forex, it's so volatile that it is very easy to do that, but it is also very easy to lose a lot of money. But I mean, I know someone that is very good with Forex, and they've sat there and showed me like, this pattern means this is going to do this, and they were jumping between like New York and Tokyo and Sydney, because you can trade pretty much all day every day with Forex too. So if you want to get up and trade at 3 a.m, like it's not like the U.S. stock market where it's 9:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, no holidays. It's pretty much always open to go. There's only little gaps, and like there'll be like a 4-hour gap between like New York closing and Tokyo opening. But there's a lot of money to be made in Forex. It's just very, very high risk, high reward.
Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of like, because you know, like those apps have like paper money, right?
Yeah.
You do kind of like, if you get that funded account with like 100K, it's kind of like paper money. You're not really messing around with anything that you have. It's just whatever you make, you take.
Yeah, exactly. It's paper money, but you reap the rewards of it.
Yeah. And that's crazy because like realistically that, like you said, technically takes away all the risk.
Yeah.
So you can just throw something on whatever. Obviously, you're not going to blow 100K at once, but like it makes it more viable because you're able to just not have a attachment to that money.
Yeah,
because you have an attachment when it is your own money that you've worked for.
Exactly. And if you have 100,000 in your stock market account, that is such a huge stepping stone to be able to make significantly more money if you know what you're doing. Because I mean, imagine if you had $100,000 right now and all the opportunities you could do with it. If you have 100,000 to start making money with, you're gonna make money a lot faster than you will right now.
For sure. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if I had 100K right now that was liquid that I could pull out, obviously I would invest some of it in just like
S&P 500.
Yeah, something long term.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would play with it. I'm not really a big gambler. That's my thing. Is I'd rather.
But it's not 100% gambling and playing with it if you know what you're doing in Forex.
True.
Forex is very, very predictable, but you have to know what the whales, the market makers, know their patterns and know how to beat them. Because you have your market makers and you have your regular traders, and you want to be doing what the market makers are doing because those are the people that are making the big money, and your regular traders are the ones that are losing more.
Mm-hmm. It's actually interesting. I've known this guy at the gym for a while, like seen him or whatever, and he asked me if I was finishing up at one of the machines and stuff, and I'm like, oh no, you're good. Like I had like one more set or whatever, and he's like, oh, how's it going? I was like, it's fine. Like, just came from work or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, I work for myself. I'm like, oh, what do you do? Something stocks, works for himself, sells stocks, works against the market, whatever. So I actually have a question written down that I think would be related to this. Is does money inherently corrupt human values, or is it merely a reflection of our values as individuals and as a society?
I think money can corrupt your values if you let it. but it doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with that corruption, because there's a lot of people that, I don't know why she's the first one that comes to mind, but like Dolly Parton, probably because my dog's named after her, the one that pissed all over the fucking couch. But yeah, like Dolly Parton, you look at all of her foundations and charities and shit, and she's made millions and millions of dollars, and she tries to do nothing but good with it. And there's so many people that have a lot of money that don't become corrupt and they don't change who they are. I mean, that's the Daily Stoic we did during episode 9. I kind of teed off on that a bit too. Whereas if you don't let the money change you, it won't. Because you can be the same humble person. It's only if you let it get to your head that it's going to change you and corrupt you. Mm-hmm. If you let the money make you think you're better than everyone else, that's when you will become corrupted. But until then, no, I don't think so. I think it's, like you said, the societal values and...
Mm-hmm. It's a reflection of the values of a person.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It really does determine or depend. It really determines or depends on like how that value, like how they see money and how they act with it.
If the money makes you evil, you were evil to begin with.
That makes sense.
Speaking of money and evil, I showed you that graphic earlier. Mm-hmm. And I really saved it because it was so crazy to me that with the oil sector, the top 2 metrics with revenue per employee. So this graphic I have, it's annual revenue per employee in millions of dollars among the top 100 U.S. companies by market cap. And at the top of that line, you have Marathon at $8.2 million per employee every year. And those guys are making, what, $12 an hour? Mm-hmm. And EOG, I don't know who, that's another oil gas company. Pretty much the top 10 are like almost all oil with like a few tech in there, like Apple and Nvidia. But it is so crazy to me that an oil company that's paying their cashier $12 an hour, $8 an hour down the south, can make $8 million off of that employee. Probably not that one specifically, but on average, they're making that much, which means some employees are making them more than that. Mm-hmm. And I think the craziest part of this section to me was the oil, because that just means that we're getting bent over on gas prices. If they're making this much profit, they're price gouging, and gas should still be $2 if they're making $8 million a year per employee.
That's insane.
Yeah. Because think about it. They are in the top 100 U.S. companies, the oil companies are the most profitable, which means they're taking the most money from us. Mm-hmm.
It's just it is such a profitable market, though.
It's a heavy necessity, yeah. But still, there's people that go get fast food more than they get gas because they don't have to drive very far. Mm-hmm. And the fast food companies are at the bottom, with the bottom 2 were Chipotle and Starbucks. They both, on average, have about $100,000 per year per employee, which is still probably a 300% gain per employee, but that's a 300% gain. It's like a 10,000% gain in the oil companies.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious on how many workers that Marathon has compared to Starbucks. Like, obviously we were talking about that earlier, but like if you took the amount of Starbucks workers or fast food workers and put them in the average of, look at the profit for Marathon and see what the average of worker per then would be. Because obviously at a given time, let's just say a minimum of 3 people are working at a fast food restaurant at a time, and there's only 1 person working at a fucking gas station. So realistically, you drop that down already, divide that, was it 8.2 you said?
Yeah. And
so 8.2 divided by 3, then it's whatever, 3.5, like whatever it would be, 3.2.
It would be 2.7.
2.9, because that'd be 7.7, right? 7.7, so then...
No, that would be 8.7, 2.9. Because 246 plus...
Okay, yeah,
2.7.
Math. But yeah, still... So obviously, yes, there's a big discrepancy of like of how much money per employee they're making, but it really depends on how many employees they have.
You do also have to think about that they have 16 employees at every gas station because pumps are self-serve.
True.
16 unaccounted for employees in that number because of that. I wasn't really thinking about that either. But it's still just crazy how much some of these companies make. Because, I mean, look at, like, Apple makes $2.4 million per employee a year.
That's crazy too. Only for it does make sense in a way because of how expensive their stuff is. So I would guarantee that number goes up for the fact that of the Vision Pro coming out, and it's minimum $3,500.
Yeah.
So like you're paying, plus tax plus Apple Care, it's close to $5,000. Now, obviously not every single person in the world is purchasing a Vision Pro, but that number will simply go up for the fact of how expensive stuff is.
Yeah. And it's only going to go up.
Yeah. So it's like, is that marathon across the entire U.S., like just in general?
Yes, it's average of every single one of whatever like company it is. It's the average based on like their pay and their profits across the company as a whole.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking about it. I don't know what gas prices are in California, but I know they were much higher than they are here, I think.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Definitely feeds into it too.
Yeah.
It's taking the average of the $7.20 gas prices in downtown LA and the gas stations that are still $2.98 right now in fucking Upton, Kentucky.
Yeah. Which is actually insane because, like, I'm curious on how they do calculate the prices for gas prices because obviously LA is a very wealthy area.
A lot of it is based on just the higher the population is in that area, the more they charge, because I think part of it is environmental too, because if there's more people in the area, they want less people to drive, one for traffic and two for the environment.
Yeah.
Especially out in California. That's a huge reason why Cali's so expensive, because they have so many extra laws for the environment, because there's so many people living in California.
Yeah, and there's probably a lot more obviously there's probably a whole lot more electric vehicles for the fact that it is a wealthier area, and the electric vehicles are more produced simply to provide for the more wealthy. I actually had a conversation with Jake, my brother, the other day. This was like a couple weeks ago actually, and he was telling me that all about these electric cars that are being made and stuff. But if you look at the idea of an electric car and like, it's Rivian or Tesla or there's another one,
the Ford Mach-E,
the Mustang Mach-E. Yeah, you look at all like that, those type of things. You look at all the electric vehicles or all the EVs, they're all geared towards the wealthy, and there's no budget option for it as well.
Except Tesla. Tesla, like 2 days ago, announced the new lowest lease. I think the exact thing was the new lowest lease before gas savings, so that you're going to pay this. It was $299 a month.
Well, what was the down payment? It's probably a down payment.
I don't know.
But then, if you even think about that, though, not a normal person is not going to be paying $300 a month for a car. That's still a lot of money. So, yes, there may be, look at our budget version of this car. But there's not, if you want to save the environment, you have to make a budget-friendly electric vehicle that's entirely electric. And that's why hybrids, like you find hybrids that are cheaper and they're more viable.
62 miles on electric.
Yeah, because you use as much as you need for gas, and then if you really need to use your electric, you can use your electric. And the hybrids are still going to be more viable than the fully electric vehicles for the fact that they're cheaper and they're more accessible to those of the lower income. Like, I don't exactly know what the price of like a basic hybrid is.
They're pretty cheap because no one wants them.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly, like, that's the thing though, is I don't know if that's the market for EVs, but
pretty cheap in the car market right now is like $15,000 to $18,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything less, you're getting a shitter. A car with 180,000 miles, that's a 2008. Because shit is going up in price bad. I mean, I've looked at cars a few times because I had to buy mine, and then Maddie just bought hers. within the last 6 months, and the car market is shitty right now.
It's been shitty for a while too, and I mean, like you said, if it's just getting worse,
Yeah.
that's why I'm happy with my car. I just hit 50K miles on it. I've had it for 5 years, I think. 5 years. 6 years this year.
I put 70,000 miles on my Jeep in a year and a half.
70?
Yeah, I got it at almost 90 on the dot, and well, it's closer to 2.5 to 3 years actually, but still, I hit 70,000 miles because I was at 90, and I think when the guy bought it, it was at 167, so that's almost 80,000 miles actually in 3 years.
That's
or
insane.
Under. Yeah,
that's a lot of fucking driving.
Yeah, and imagine how it was like $60 or $70 to fill up my Jeep's gas tank, and I got like 17 miles a gallon.
You know what's funny is I pulled up behind a Jeep one day. This was a couple days ago, and I had a random thought. I was like, I wonder if Tommy does the wave to Jeep still.
No.
Just randomly, because he was so used to doing it before.
Yeah, no, I think about doing it, but then I'm always like, they're just going to be like, why the fuck are you waving at me? Because I'm in a fucking Mazda.
To preface, what is it? The Jeep wave?
Jeep wave, yeah.
What is the Jeep wave?
It's basically, it's more common in just the Wranglers, and now more recently the Gladiators, because the Gladiator is just a Wrangler with a truck bed. But it's basically just, like, if you know what the Harley-Davidson wave is, when two Harley motorcycles ride past each other, it's just like a sign of respect. Like, hey, you're on a motorcycle too. So they put their arm out and wave at them. Well, they don't wave, but they put their arm down into the side and, like, point their fingers in a certain way, and that's the Harley wave. And the Jeep wave is the same thing. It's like, hey, you got a fucking Jeep too. What's up, man? And this is the traditional one, but, like, you pretty much just wave at them anyway. Sometimes I'd be like... I do weird shit with my hands when they're pulling up. Yeah.
The Spock. So do you know how that started? Like, obviously it was like the Harley Davidson thing, but like how did one day people were like, we're just going to wave to every Jeep that we see?
It's been a thing for years. Same with like the Jeep ducks.
Was the Jeep duck? Oh, you put a duck or something?
You put a fucking rubber duck on someone's Jeep. If you have a Jeep and you see someone else's Jeep, you put a rubber duck on their hood. And people will like put them in their windshield. I've seen people with Jeeps with like 30 to 40 different rubber ducks just all the way across the dashboard.
And that's just from people putting ducks on their car? Huh. I actually never understood. I remember seeing a bunch of ducks in a Jeep, and that makes a lot more sense now.
Pete ducked me, and Pete ducked Kristen. I've been ducked one time, and it was by Pete.
Have you ever ducked somebody?
No.
Because you got
I didn't want to go buy rubber ducks. Yeah.
Yeah, where do you purchase these rubber ducks? Like Walmart,
Amazon. Some people go the extra mile and they'll buy fucking 50 packs of them, and every duck's a different design, and every duck they give out is different.
My duck in my car, it was like the Gladiator duck.
Yeah, exactly.
The pit bull duck, he's bald and he's got the glasses and the chain.
Yeah, and people will go buy 50 different ducks like that are all unique, so that every time they duck someone, it's something new.
Sounds like a cult to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That was just a funny random thought that I had. I really wondered if you still did the wave.
Yeah, no, I mean, I miss doing the wave. I've done the Harley wave at motorcycles with my doors off in my Jeep though before. And they did it back, so I think there's a sign of mutual respect between Jeep owners and motorcycle riders too.
There's actually this is completely unrelated to cars and finance and stuff. But this was from the book I was reading. It was called Turning Pro. It was honestly a very short book. It's like 120 pages. Took me like just under 2 hours to read the other day. And the topic was accidental incapacitation. So this was in relation to World War I, and it was common for soldiers to shoot themselves in the foot to prevent them from not having to fight in the war.
The golden wound.
This led them to not having to face real life fights. Their real life fight would also okay, just to really preface really quick, the book of Turning Pro was to kind of help build your creative, like expand your creative boundaries to go from an amateur to a pro, like be able to like, okay, realize that I'm able to do this. And this idea of shooting yourself in the foot is not allowing them to recognize their potential. So the term for this was called malingering, and it was considered a court-martial, which actually led to them being executed. So this is like the same thing in humans that humans do by incapacitating themselves by addictions or distractions. So by being soaked up in different things, they take away from your creative ability or take time away from gaining more knowledge or working towards a goal of yours. So you are malingering yourself. You are limiting yourself to, you are limiting your potential by technically shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, that's where the expression comes from.
Yep. And I find that very interesting because so many people accidentally incapacitate themselves. Like I said, by addictions, video games are a thing, like taking video games too seriously, like for myself.
It's funny that you said that because that was another topic that I had on here was pros and cons of gaming.
But so we can go into that after. But yeah, like anything that really incapacitates your ability to create or, grow, then you are technically shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way to think about it. Because, I obviously love war and learning about it. And, in all these war movies, you'll see someone... There was a book I read called The Boys of 67, which is about the Vietnam War. And it was a certain platoon in Vietnam. And one of them got shot, and it went through his hand and, up into his forearm and then out his elbow. And all of his guys were like, congrats, buddy, you got the golden wound. And he's like, what the fuck is the golden wound? And they're like, you got a wound that's going to get you sent home and probably end your war, but it's not going to completely disable you. And that's not the same thing, but it made me think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But, shooting yourself in the foot, I definitely see myself doing it a lot. Like with what we talked about earlier, I shoot myself in the foot because I'm scared to fail. And, it's the same as, because if you fail in war, you're going to die. You're dead if you fail.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm scared to fail, so I'm shooting myself in the foot metaphorically by holding myself back because I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
And it's man, now that you put it into war terms, I have to stop letting it happen.
Stop shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Anyone that's holding themselves back, stop shooting yourself in the foot.
Yes. See, I kind of wanted to talk about this pros and cons of being a gamer, but I also don't know if I do. We both have definitely a lot of relationship with that, and we can both talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll go down the list. So, for pros, I have improved cognitive abilities, improved problem-solving skills and logic, increased hand-to-eye coordination, greater multitasking ability, faster and more accurate decision-making, enhanced pro-social behaviors, and better eyesight with, attention to detail. He's up the ridge 500 meters out.
Yeah.
You can only see his head. In Tarkov.
Actually, before you go into the cons, I think we should talk about a few of those.
Pros, yeah.
Yeah. So, what was one of the first one?
Improved cognitive abilities.
So, yeah. Okay. So, for that one, it's interesting because Neil has actually told me about how, because I've played so many video games, and probably you as well, you're able to think of like a box. If you think of a cube, right? Just in the middle of just in space.
Yeah.
She finds it hard to be able to maneuver that cube in her mind.
Really?
Because she's not used to playing. Because she's not used to playing video games, and I guess gamers are able to manipulate things in space much better because of how used to incorporating digital stuff on screens. And I found that really interesting because she was like, okay, how would you what would it look like if you were to shape this cube in a certain way? And I'd be like, oh, you would just turn it this way in my mind, and it would be facing this way at the end. She's like, yeah, I couldn't do that.
I literally just took a cube, spun it this way 6 times, made it go gyroscopic, and then I turned it red, and then I had it start twisting in the middle and go through mitosis and split into 2 cubes that started doing the same thing. That's really crazy to me that people can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
Go gamers.
Yeah, it definitely does increase cognitive ability then. And then the next one was problem-solving skills and logic. Obviously, that's kind of a given. It definitely 100% helps with problem-solving skills because, especially if you grew up playing those type of games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Walking Dead is the first one that came to mind. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a problem-solving game, but it's
Decision making, for sure.
Yeah, the decision making.
Well, also kind of going back to this, it's the first one and the second one. So if you think about how I can, because of how many hours I have in Fortnite, I can literally picture tunneling like in Endgame, and I could picture how I would move my hand and how the edits would go through and what I would be placed over my head and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when you're in an Endgame for Fortnite, somehow even though you're not physically in the area, when you're building and stuff, you just know if there's like a cone and a floor over your head.
Yeah.
Just by simple muscle memory and just, I don't know. Just I would say it's just,
if you placed it. If you misplaced it, it feels off.
And it's actually interesting, and especially I know one of the later ones, I think it was, did you say it was eyesight? Did you say there was an eyesight one?
Yeah, better attention to detail with better eyesight.
And that's funny too, because obviously it really depends on how good your eyesight is. You could have like really bad vision when you're playing video games. You might not be able to see things. But like, for example, Neil would see me playing Rust, and I'll see a guy like 1,000 meters out and just like this fucking big, and I'm like, oh, I see him. He's like moving left to right, 350, and she's like, where what are you talking about? I'm like, he's right there. What? And I think it's actually crazy how much of a difference seeing little specks makes. So I would love to see like an experiment to see how much better eyesight is, because obviously I would assume there is an experiment of how poorly it makes your eyesight from looking at a screen for so long. But I don't know, I think it would be cool to see how much it does actually improve your eyesight rather than the negative part of it.
And that's funny because, like, I don't know how much you guys can see of this, but I could pick something out, like you just said, someone in a game like Rust 1,000 meters away. But if I walked into this room and I was looking for this Gatorade bottle, I probably wouldn't find it. And it is right here. You can hide something in plain sight from me, and I will lose it. I will not be able to find it.
Mm-hmm.
But those little precise details, I can always pick them up, which is crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think me not being able to find the little things is a sign of ADHD, or the things in common places. That's a sign of like ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas being able to pinpoint those little details, that's your eyesight. So I don't have bad eyesight because of this, but I have good eyesight because I can see the little things.
Well, it goes into, I don't know, sometimes when I'm really trying to find something, like you said, like even if it's just right there, for some reason I can't fucking find it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so happy I have like a tracker on my keys and a tracker on my wallet.
Because you're walking and you accidentally put them down when you're thinking about something else, and then you don't have a conscious memory of putting them down, so you're like, where the fuck are they?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we had hand-to-eye coordination.
Sure.
I know for a fact that is another thing, too, because, like, if I know something's falling, I have the spatial awareness to, even if I'm not looking at it, I can catch it. Like, if a piece of paper falls, I can just swap backwards and catch it behind me. No problem. And I think a lot of that comes with reaction time and hand-eye coordination from gaming. And spatial awareness, I think, is part of that. That is a lot harder concept to understand, but having spatial awareness is something that I feel like a lot of people don't have. Like, a lot of people run into people, like, at work. A lot of people, we run into each other a lot. Like, me and you almost never run into each other if we're on the floor together because we both have spatial awareness and we both know how big we are and how far something is behind us, even if we're not looking at it, just from, like, sound cues or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a big part of that is from gaming.
Mm-hmm. Judging distance for sure is like, I feel like there has to be some sort of correlation. I don't know. You look at it, I feel like when I look at, okay, I'm going to throw this piece of paper in the trash, something like in my mind, like, okay, calculating, and then I can throw it and it either misses or not. Yeah. So there has to be some sort of like brain function that correlates to that.
Yeah. Greater multitasking ability is another pro.
I would love to hear why you think multitasking would be a pro. Like, what is how do you become a better multitasker as a gamer?
I mean, with that, this was more of a generalized list. I don't necessarily think I'm as good of a multitasker. Well, no, actually, I'm lying. Yes, I 100% believe that because of things like I have noticed, especially recently, that like say I'm playing Counter-Strike, there was a time where like if I was in the middle of a gunfight, I couldn't call something out because it would fuck up my gunfight. And I finally hit the point where I can talk while I'm doing something intense in the game because I've learned the ability to multitask from doing that because I've done it so many times. So I definitely think with like talking to your teammates while you're in a fight or something, or in Valorant, there's so many different fucking abilities and shit you have to do that I
Okay.
and just
That I understand for sure.
But the biggest part of that for me would probably be talking while I'm fighting.
Yeah. Because I don't know, if you think about it in like a Valorant sense, it's actually interesting because you have to, like you said, you have to do so many things at a specific time. It was Astra. I was an Astra main for a while when I was playing. An Astra, you have to like put these orbs down. You have to hit either E, C, or like Q for it to do a certain specific thing. So like you have to either be doing, aiming at one angle, and someone will be like, "Oh, pop your smoke," and you like pop a smoke, and then someone will peek you, and you have to like shoot
While you're popping
while you're
smoke,
talking, and while you're, I'm calling out a guy like arches or something. So like I do think situation specific multitasking.
It's not always,
because
yes.
I don't know. I don't know if it would, like, I guess that is in a way considered multitasking because obviously there's also you're doing multiple different. I guess that is
because you
multiple
also
different
have to
tasks
think about like there's the movement aspect. If you're good at movement, you have to be like
true
jumping around
hopping
and shit while you're calling this out and while you're trying to find this guy to fight him and using abilities.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. I mean, that definitely makes sense for sure.
Yeah. Faster and more accurate decision making, which we also talked about earlier today.
I do think that there could be. I don't know if it was the one if there was another one that you wrote, Diane, but I do think certain people can improve their communication skills.
Pro-social behaviors. Yeah. Enhance pro-social behaviors.
Because if you're an IGL, like obviously, like I said, it has to be specific person, like specific people. Because if you're an IGL, your communication has to be on fucking point.
When I play alone, I IGL because no one else knows how to fucking do it.
That's my thing. Is I just don't really care to talk to people that I don't really know, so I'm not going to call out shit. And now that would probably help me with communication skills. That's also like going back to the topic that we were talking about earlier, where depending on what you're doing, you can find little things that help you communicate better, like learn from certain things. Like in video games, for that exact reason, you're able to communicate with a bunch of people that you don't fucking know. So technically, it doesn't matter that you're gonna say, "Let's try this," and it doesn't work out, and they bitch at you. It's like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
So like, you can use video games to become a better communicator if you want to try and become like an in-game leader or whatever. That's what an IGL is, and I think that's actually a really good benefit to it as well.
Yeah. And then on cons, we had gaming preoccupation, which is like becoming preoccupied with gaming, not focusing on other tasks. Withdrawal, tolerance, which are on the gaming addiction aspect of it. Loss of interest in other activities, downplaying use, loss of relationship, educational, or career opportunities, gaming to escape or relieve anxiety, guilt, or other negative mood states, failure to control, continued gaming despite psychosocial problems, and then gaming has also been associated with sleep deprivation, insomnia, circadian rhythm disorders, depression, aggression, and anxiety, but I said that already. It almost... those are honestly like all the signs of an addiction too, which I feel like the big negatives of gaming are it all really just comes down to it can be addicting and it can't have the same effect as drugs.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, those games are made to keep you addicted to them.
Yeah, keep you hooked.
Yeah. It's that dopaminergic response that those games have that allowed them to suck you in. And, they give you that, oh, I'm actually doing something, but realistically, you're not actually doing anything. It's just giving you that response without really having any risk to reward ratio,
Yeah. Yeah, so it's, I mean... Yes, there are a lot of benefits, but it is scary to think about that gaming can have the same effects on your brain as fucking heroin.
There was I think it was in the Deep Work book, there was a topic about, realistically, how he introduced this topic was talking about a hay baler, like a hay baler aspect. So there was this farmer that was trying to decide on whether or not he should buy this hay baler. And that obviously the hay baler has some pros to it, as in like it makes hay for his animals and they're able to have food, and you don't have to outsource you don't have to purchase it from another source. But then yes, it may have positives from
implications.
Yeah. It does have negatives. Like you look at it, and the negatives were it tears up the ground, so it messes up your crop over a certain period of time. The time that it's going to take to have to take care of that, and he's going to have to build a shed to be able to keep it in. Then he's going to have to
cost of maintenance.
Yep, cost of maintenance. All this extra time that he's going to take spending on taking care of that is going to take away from time he could be doing something else.
Yeah,
and then it goes into. That's the idea of finding out which network tools or just tools in general you use in your life to decide if they are really a positive benefit to yourself. So yes, gaming has a way of having positive capabilities, but I think the negatives of gaming outweigh all the positives because of all the possibilities that gaming does bring to you.
Yeah.
Like we said, there is positives to it, but
it can also really bring you down.
Yes, like all the negatives that will affect you will affect so many other things than the positive. Like, cool, you're going to become a better communicator, but you're going to be stuck in your house anyways, communicating to your team anyways. You're not going to go out in the world and whatever, which is very interesting because you have gamers that are very social online and they're very good communicators online, but then you put them in a real life situation and they're unable to act. They're unable to do anything.
Yeah.
So obviously we're talking about the pros and cons, and we're not trying to convince you to like not play video games or whatever, because we're both huge gamers ourselves.
Yeah.
But we do have to, we're trying to.
We have to look at both sides of the coin.
You have to realize that there is a limit to it. Like, you shouldn't allow it to consume you to a point where a lot of your real life tasks are being, what is it?
Overcome.
A lot of they're being
pushed to the side for gaming.
Yes, for gaming. Because like we said, we are very big. What is it? I fucking forgot the word again.
Eye ladies?
Eye ladies, no. So I guess it's supporters of gaming. We love gaming, and we do think there is always a time for it. There's no like fucking age limit, and I think it's stupid for people to be like, dude, you're so old. Why are you playing video games? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, if I had more time, I would fucking play more video games for sure. Like, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode 1 of 2 that we are recording today.
Yeah, I agree. That was we had a bunch of different interesting topics there. I think it was very good, and I enjoyed it for sure. I didn't, I don't know. It was a
we were definitely all over the place today, but still semi-organized, and it was good because of it.
Well, yeah, I was actually listening to a podcast earlier, and he was talking about how when he started his podcast, he was like, oh yeah, you got to make sure you have a niche, got to make sure your episodes are this long. And this topic was actually interesting because he said every podcast to be 45 minutes long, because that's the average length of someone's commute from work to home or home to work. So they watch half of it on the way there and then the rest of it on the way back. So people are trying to find their niche and find like the optimal amount of like time for podcasts. Yeah. But it's like, you are your own niche. We are our own niche. We can talk about whatever the fuck we want. Yeah. And there's going to be someone that's interested in listening.
Yeah. I mean, we already have plenty of people that are interested just because we talk about whatever we want. And I mean, half of it is a lot. I mean, there's a lot we talk about that's just off our own knowledge and with our personality, and you can't find that anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So
that's what we try here in Innate Domain.
Yeah. Expanding our knowledge.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Episode
sir.
1 of 2.
See you again in about 20 minutes.
See ya. Yep. Later.